Welcome back to another episode, and this is a popular demand one. I was 50-50 about going live for this one. The boys are backing it in, and a lot of people have actually messaged the page in the last probably 24 to 48 hours to say, is this episode going live? We need it to go live. So we'll give a few people enough time to get on. It's available Facebook and YouTube. We've wiped the Instagram version of it. I just wasn't too fond of it last week. The pairing between StreamYard and Instagram, I forgot how to go switch over to a completely different screen, which sort of mucked me up a little bit. So I didn't like it. So Instagram followers, there will be something for you guys to show probably once a week. I will go live for like half an hour and just answer some like questions and stuff like that. So you're not going to miss out. But as Adam said last week, like you obviously got probably a Facebook or a YouTube account for these shows. Just quickly jump on over and we'll entertain you for the next hour or so. This one will probably be a little bit longer because there's going to be a lot to be spoken about. I've got some Knights fans and some Eels fans on this one, so we're pumped, ready to go. Just got to do a couple of shout-outs. First of all, the teams we are doing tonight, the Melbourne Storm, Newcastle Knights, the Parramatta Eels, and the Brisbane Broncos. A couple of shout-outs, obviously, with our Supercoach competitions this year. I've only got the overall out there for now. There is a head-to-head coming, which will probably be released tomorrow. But Supercoach rings, you've obviously seen the post I put up. They've given us kindly a ring, which is honestly, guys, it is smick. Like I was expecting to lift it up and just, oh yeah, it's just a standard sort of ring. It is heavy. It is legit. It is pure perfection. So you definitely want to win this. So make sure you go over to the League of Inches overall comp. It's called League of Inches Legends comp. The code is 452990. So make sure you head on over there to put your Supercoach team forward, and you could win that Supercoach ring. Secondly,
mate, this thing looks like a Super Bowl ring.
It is.
It looks phenomenal.
It's legit. It is legit. So make sure, even if you're not a Supercoach player, it's worth just putting a Supercoach team in, subscribing or entering that competition. And you never know. You could be walking away with that ring, and the way it's looking, it's probably worth a bit of money as well.
Imagine showing that off to your mates. Oh yeah.
Oh, you're walking down the street going, look at this, I'm a champion, I'm a legend. Secondly, it sort of links in with the Supercoach side of things and the fantasy side of it as well. Rugby League Fantasy Pro has jumped on board recently as well. Get across, this is a website. So basically just type that in and it'll pop up. What they do is they cover every sort of stat you can think of when it comes to the fantasy, the Supercoach side of things. They're getting a punting one coming very soon, I've been told. So that will be live. I think it's in a matter of weeks or something. So we will let you know with that as well. So it's going to be a wide-ranging side of things. And it helps the draft people out there, which is myself, my first year doing draft this year. I'm very nervous. So I'll be clicking on there, helping my draft stuff as well. There is a promo code. So you get $10 off if you do. They've got a subscription-based service, and it's for the whole year. You can get $10 off if you use the code 2FEET. So the number 2 and then the word feet, capital FEET. Now, here we go. One final thing I did say in the video on Instagram, a little bit of an announcement tonight before we get stuck into things and I introduce the boys. I've decided we're going to open up our name a bit, like the League of Inches name. We're all about rugby league. NRL obviously is our bread and butter. We'll continually always talk about that. But there's a bit more to our page. We want to really advertise rugby league as a whole at all different levels, including touch football, OzTag, TRL, the like as well. So any highlight you have, if you score a sick try, you put on a good hit, whether you're a parent for your kids or if you're just a senior out there and you put a really good try on, send it through to the page. We will send it out. Adam's already sent me about 5 of his beach gala day the other week, so I'll put a couple more of those up. But
hang on. You slid into my DMs and like send me some good footage because the truth is you knew there was going to be no good footage coming from Hayden from the Entertain House from that charity game. So you need to build up the context for it, and here we go.
Yeah, well, look, you've got a bit of a point there. Jez, I'll introduce you first. Mr. Producer, you are back at school. How's the first couple of days been? Or is it really today, the first day?
Nah, we went back last week. Today's the first week back. So it's been nice. It's been good to get back to the swing of things. I'm a man of routine. So now that I know exactly what I'm doing every day, I'm back into my comfort zone. So loving being back at school.
Mika, which you obviously you want to be called. I will make sure I stick to Mika and I will not take the A away tonight. How you been, brother? The big week. I know you got some gigs and that coming up. If you want to have a quick plug for that, you've been drumming all day.
Oh,
Lost
yeah.
about
Thank
18
you.
litres, you said.
Yeah, it was very sweaty in the garage today. 35 degrees, I think it was. So not fun. Yeah, we're playing in Wollongong this Friday night and then Sydney on the Saturday. So check out our Facebook page and find all the info. Thank you.
Which is
No
what's
quarter.
it called? Yeah, give
No quarter.
What sort of music is it?
It is 90s style, so like old Blink-182, old Offspring, fast, melodic, a lot of guitars. Keeps me fit.
Nice. And Adam, apart from talking about yourself in the third person and how good your stats are for the beach footy, how's your week been?
Yeah, not too bad. Working hard, as I always do. And not much else really, just reading through some YouTube and some Facebook comments, and I'm ready to have a good talking point tonight. I'm remaining impartial.
Oh, we won't go too much into that. But one thing I will say is thank you to everyone who has been reaching out to the page, giving their feedback, whether it is good or bad. We do appreciate it. I know it does take a lot to reach out and message the page. So it's appreciated that you are listening or watching, whether that's YouTube or podcast, Spotify, Apple, and the like. We really do appreciate you. And as I said, it's growing literally every week. It's crazy some of the numbers we are starting to pull. Boys, four massive teams which we need to get into, but I've got a quick... I know Jez had his turn with the zoo animals. Now I've got a little bit of a off
and
footy,
the banana bread.
and the banana bread. It's my turn.
We're not getting into animal porn again, are we?
No, we're not. We're going to steer clear of the animal porn tonight. But I've got something more of a confession, more of a I want to come clean because it's eaten me up for the last 24 hours. So yesterday I had a big road trip back home. I've been out and about the last few days for work. Stopped at Macca's. I think it was Macca's Taree or something like that, and just got a double cheeseburger meal, standard. Back in the truck, sat in there. I like to put my chips on the burger and eat it as I go. So I've had the lid on my lap. The lid dropped and hit the truck floor. Now, I'm not eating off the truck floor. Like, I'm not that bad. So even if it's the 3 second rule, it was disgusting. So what did I do? By the way, this trip, I'm doing it by myself. I go back to McDonald's. I blame my son. My son now is 6 months old. He was not with me. I just didn't have the balls or the courage to say, guys, my fault. Can I just replace the top of my bun? And all I did was end up ordering literally a bun. They looked at me like I was some weirdo. I go, a bun and some tomato sauce. That's all. I'm set. So, boys, just a quick question before we get stuck into the rugby league talk.
How much was a bun and tomato sauce? 75 cents
for a bun. 75 cents. So it's quick one for you.
Cheaper than ice cream.
Anyone jump in? Have you ever blamed your kids for something that they obviously didn't do, but you wanted to either get yourself out of trouble with or the like?
Anytime there is a foul smell coming from the vicinity of where my son and I am, yeah, he gets the blame.
If anyone out there, by the way, in the comments, if you have a story, please put it in the comments. We will get to it because I think there's going to be some rippers for this one. Adam, you have to have something. That is down your alley. You'll be blaming your son on a lot, I reckon.
I never blamed him for anything. I've thrown the dogs under a bus a few times, that's for sure. I remember once going in, so Michael, remember this one, Joe, remember this one. My German Shepherd was about a year old and decided to chew the lounge. I was stoked because I needed a new lounge anyway. So I went and got a new lounge. And a day after getting the new lounge, it was one of those fancy electric ones you have to plug in. Well, she chewed the cord you plugged in. So I took it back to the shop. And this is not blaming the dog. I couldn't tell him the dog chewed it, and I told him it come broken. So, I had to return the favor there for the dog. And they believed me, and they gave me a new one.
Perfect.
Thanks, Harvey Norman.
Mick, you got one? You got one for
Mika, what have you blamed the girls on?
Eating Kira's Rocky Road out of the fridge and leaving her none when it was all me.
Perfect.
I eat it like
I feel like
nothing.
I don't know about you boys. I feel a bit better now. I feel like I've come clean. I've owned it. I'll go out and apologise to my son after this. He doesn't even realise, but I threw him completely under the bus at Taree Macca. So if anyone there, and the service was great, I'll own it now. It was me. But let's get stuck into what we are here for and what everyone is tuning in for. Some rugby league talk. This is our final teams preview for 2024, and we have left it to be massive. I feel like for this last one, as we said, sit down, get yourself a cold one, whatever, or a coffee or tea, whatever you want to do. Get yourself some bickies, a pizza, please, whatever you want. This is going to be a juicy episode, and we're going to start off with the Melbourne Storm, a team that is tipped. And first of all, producer Jez, quality. I know you've been very busy, man, but this is another quality piece of work for yourself. By the way, guys, comments as we go, we'll show them on the screen and that when we do go. So the gains, Sean Bloor from the Tigers, obviously a late one. Really good signing, I believe. The losses, Tom Eisenhuth to the Dragons, Jaden Nikorima to Catlin, so the Super League, Justin Olam to the Tigers. He was that swap with Sean Bloor, and Tarek Sims to Catlins as well, Super League. I was actually really excited when he first signed with the Storm. I thought we were going to see him get to that same level that he was sort of with the Origin, but it's a bit of a shame. There's a heap. I'll let Jez take over when it comes to the re-signing off contract. He is a specialist when it comes to this side of things.
Yeah, big shout out to Zero Tackle as well for putting that together. So a local boy from up here, Grant Anderson, re-signed for 24, which is great because we love seeing local talent do well in the NRL. And I know it makes Adam super happy when Knights juniors aren't playing for the Knights and doing well. So good on you, Grant. He's a good bloke. Nelson Asafa Solomona for 2028. That's a big signing. Bronson Garlick, Dean. Is that an L? My eyes aren't working. Larima? Cool.
Tui.
Kamakalika to 25. Katoa to 27. Josh King to 25. Now, Josh King, I believe, won the challenge again this year. You know how they do a preseason challenge? He's always one that his fitness is just through the roof. So, again, training the house down. What a signing from the Knights of Josh King. Nick Meaney to 24. Moroa to 24. Pezzett to 25, Will Warbrick to 26, and Wishart to 26. So some good ones at the back there up until 2026. Wow. A few off contracts, so a couple of 1-yearers. But I think Remus Smith, Nick Meaney, you're looking at those guys there to kind of re-sign to bolster those positions when people are out or injured. And I think just the main thing that everybody's thinking and wishing for is that Ryan Pappenhausen has a clean season. Rumoured to be back for round one. He's eyeing off the trials to test himself out. So that's huge for the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah. I agree. They've said that he'll play at least one of the preseason games, which is exciting stuff. And as you said, I'll echo those sentiments there, Jez. As a rugby league fan, like I'm obviously a Para fan, so I sort of started to hate the Storm. Obviously, there's been that hatred for a while, but I could not think of anything better to see a fully fit Ryan Pappenhausen tearing it up. So, Adam, thoughts on the gain and the losses for the Storm?
Yeah, there's not a lot happened, isn't there? Obviously, in the games, there's that player swap, as we mentioned, but probably had to move a few players on. Eisenhuth obviously gone the Dragons, and look, Nikorima and Sims, obviously their time was up in NRL, so they're off to the Super League, which is always exciting, especially when you get two in one team. But and Justin Olam, look, obviously the writing was on the wall there for him to be moved away from the Storm when they dropped him later in the year. But just looking at, obviously, some of those re-sign off contracts, I think you're probably a little bit wrong there, Jeremy. I think Nick Meaney will be moved on at the end of this year. Well, they've put him on the 1-year thing. Yeah, obviously with Player Longo coming through obviously Pappenhausen being number one there, it puts him third in line. So I think his time...
Third? He's just so consistent. He had such a good year. Like the last couple of years with Pappenhausen being out, he has just... I don't know. I think he's taking his game to the next level.
I agree, but he'll be the easiest one of them to move on. They're not going to let go of Pappenhausen. Not going to let go of Longo. Obviously, he's going to be an up-and-coming star, but I think his time will be up to go across the Super League and earn a good paycheck.
You don't think another NRL club?
No, God. Watch it. There's my bold prediction for the Melbourne Storm this year.
How old is he?
I think
he'd have to be 27.
Mid to late-ish 20s for sure.
Google will tell me.
Remus Smith, I'll let go of Remus Smith, I reckon, if it means keeping Nick Meaney. I reckon Nick Meaney's in for a big year at centre. I actually don't mind that move. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
I can see him actually staying on with the Storm for unders if it means staying in that system, because he's played his best footy there he's had both experiences. Obviously, he's played at the Dogs for a while when they were being quite poor. Now he's at a successful club, and he's probably feeding off that. Not saying they're making him look better, but obviously with that quality of player, you do rise naturally as a player. So I think he's sort of got that. Mika, before we get too much more
I genuinely
into...
think he held his own, though, Joel. Like when he was
Yeah,
playing in
so do I.
that Storm side, when Pappenhausen was out, he did not look out of place. And he put on some really great plays, and he was quite solid in defence as well. So I think he has really thrived in that setup there.
If you think about it, they lost arguably one of the best fullbacks in the competition. He replaced him, and they still finished top 4. So he obviously has been doing quite a good job there. I'm sort of with you, Jez. I'll be surprised if the Storm don't try and get him at least. Like it'll have to be one of those talks where it's, will you stay for unders, I think, just because of the quality of play that they got there. But we'll see. Mika, let's get you in. I think I also read some comments there saying it looks like you're nursing a hangover, but he's probably...
Thank you for that pronunciation in the comments. Please keep them coming because I will learn.
Yeah.
Eremia.
Shane there in the Facebook comments, but he's probably coming late. He probably doesn't realize you've actually been on a drum session for about 15 hours and sweated 18 liters. There's no hangover. It's just a natural exhaustion, and you still
You can't be hungover when you're still drinking, can you?
No, that's right.
Let us know.
Yeah, like as Adam said, there's not a lot going on this board, which is odd. But I mean, Melbourne just have that whole thing where they get their team set and not make many changes, and they still turn up every year. So, I mean, Ireland, we all expect that, as you said. There's not really much to talk about, is there?
No, there's not. It's I kind of, in a way, I'll include Pappenhausen as a game because he was out last year, and it's sort of like it's very exciting. Like, if he could stay fit, he will make a huge difference to this Melbourne Storm outfit.
Massive. And I guess we forget.
If he stays fit, the pass mark for the Melbourne Storm is grand final. Like, honestly, if he stays fit and their whole team stays fit, that is their pass mark. Is making it to the big dance.
Look at the spine.
Top 4.
That is
exactly
arguably the best spine in the competition when all fully fit.
I disagree, but I'm going to wait till we get to the concerns for that one.
Yeah,
we'll go to concerns now. Go.
Jerome Hughes. I personally, and I've said this for quite a while, I've shared this opinion, I don't think he is a halfback, and I don't think he has been a halfback. I think it was just a blanket when Cameron Smith was there. Melbourne last year seemed to lack a lot with Harry Grant playing 80 minutes, as though Harry Grant actually carved Parramatta up a couple of times and also carved up in Origin, but he wasn't playing 80 minutes in Origin. Letting go of Brendan Smith, I feel like Melbourne lost a bit in that regard, and they exposed Hughes quite a bit and put a lot of pressure on Cameron Munster. My biggest concern for them, which has been my concern for other teams, is finding the balance in their team. Look, Pappenhausen says he's good to go for the trials in round 1. One thing you got to love about Pappenhausen is his ability to interact with the fans online. He loves doing it. And he's received a lot of messages about Supercoach, which he's responded to. But you can put him on. I hope you can't, but you can put him into a concern as well, because Melbourne have a hard decision to make. If Pappenhausen struggles with any kind of injury and they bring in Failongo, he absolutely kills it at fullback. Look, I don't know if he's going to be starting it, maybe in the centres, but obviously we saw the impact he had last year. And then he excels there. What do they do with Pappenhausen? Because they can't play him in the middle. We saw how that went last year. He's wasted on the bench and takes up a bench spot. So I just think Melbourne are going to have some real balance issues. I guess I'll go to a positive of that. And the positive is obviously the coach they've got will be one of the best, obviously, getting the best out of his team. So that's on him to actually do that.
Yeah.
They're all very valid points.
They are very valid. The counter to it is it's not a bad replacement if they do lose Pappenhausen this year, because Failongo is ready to step up. And I think we've all seen now he is a freak, and I cannot wait to see him get some proper minutes at the NRL level. Like, don't get me wrong, I really want to, and I said this, I touched on this last week, I do want to see Pappenhausen fully fit, but there's also a part of me that really wants to see Failongo absolutely brain it. And special shout out to your brother. We have been communicating a bit on the page. He has been seeing some of the posts that I put up of him. He's laughing his head off at it. So I just think it's such a dangerous team. Like, when you do talk about concerns, there's not much there for me when I look at it. I can't see much. Like the only thing I can look at is maybe their centers. Like if their centers starting the season is Remus Smith and Nick Meaney, just because Nick Meaney is unproven at center. We're not too sure what we'll get there. I have no doubt he'll probably do well. But if I have to say a concern now, it is that sort of edge defense targeting those centers who I think have made some of the incorrect decisions in the past with their defense, and Nick Meaney now having to make those decisions might be something that he's not used to, so we're not too sure where it's at. But apart from that, boys, that's all I got when it comes to a concern for the Storm.
Yep. You could probably add a little bit of inexperience on the edge as well, but that will come with time. I thoroughly love Grant Anderson and everything that he does, but he is still very young to NRL level, though he didn't really get caught out that much. But again, if you've got those inexperienced centers inside you, it's going to make you double guess your defensive reads as well. So that compress of that middle to just then go around or expose those edges could be a concern for the Melbourne Storm.
I know we're a fair bit away from Team List Tuesday, but obviously the predicted team comes up, and as you kind of mentioned, they've got Nick Meaney and Remus Smith there in the centres. Another concern they've got is they've got both Bronson Garlick and Bailongo on the bench. So only leaves two big men on the bench if this is the team they go with. And, you know, with an aging player like Nelson Sofa-Solomona, who's obviously getting on a bit, I know he's not that old. You know, I'm not his biggest fan, so I'm not going to go there this year too early. And Christian Welch, who's been around a while, a few injuries. You probably need a bit more on the bench in regards to size, especially with, I won't say they're inexperienced second rowers, but they're certainly not big name second rowers either that they've got there at the moment. You know, we know, obviously, Melbourne let go of most of their forward pack last year to go to the Dolphins. They lost so many to the Dolphins in both Bromwich brothers, and obviously, I'm going to forget his name again. What's old mate that hits everyone late? Felice Kafusi. Like, you know, they lost so many players to the Dolphins, but they're in that rebuilding forward, and they've been kind of lucky their backline's been so strong for a while. But like I said, I just find that they're not, I know you're saying it, they're not as strong as I thought they would be this year. We say that about Melbourne every year. We wait for Melbourne to fall, and they never do.
I thought.
We do.
Sorry,
I enjoyed that the comments went over Adam's face then. That was brilliant.
I was about to apologise for that. I didn't realise it did that. That's an upgraded version of StreamYard. So I will keep popping them up, but don't take offence, Adam. I didn't realise that happened. Mika?
Yeah, I thought last year after they lost pretty much the majority of their forward pack at the time, I thought we were going to finally see the year when Melbourne had a dive, and it just never happened really. There was a few games where they were flat, but I mean, they're just always consistently there, and it does my head in. You know, I thought, you know, they lost Cameron Smith and then lose all their forward pack. They're going to have one of those years where they sort of finish in the bottom of the 8 for once. Like, but I don't know. They just keep pulling out the numbers when they need to, I suppose.
There is there's a question there about the forwards, and we're sort of touching on that as we go now. But one thing with Sean Bloor as well, obviously Pitcherton and their big signing, their only signing for this year. One thing I think everyone knows that Sean Bloor, when fit, is a phenomenal talent. He has a really, really bright future. My only concern so far with his career, it's been so stop and start once again with injuries. And he could be the best up and coming forward we've seen in a long time. But unless he can get his body right, that's not going to mean anything for the Melbourne Storm. Like on paper, awesome signing that they can get him in the back row. Maybe Liero can go and switch to a middle forward, which I've heard has been a rumor doing the rounds. Him moving into the lock position and King going into that prop rotation. But like with some of these players, like I'm talking Sean Bloor, you just got to make sure they get their body right for a week in, week out NRL career. And that's what he's sort of lacking at the moment, which is my only concern sort of when it comes to that signing. The forward pack, do I think is a top 4 forward pack, which is a question from shout out to Andrew Backhouse, back with us this week after missing last week. And he was one of the beggars saying, please put it live. So I know you and Adam have a thing to sort of have a bit of a get square coming up. So we'll have to find a time. We've got a few catch-ups coming up this year, which we will let people know about.
It's whenever it's kids on the field. Whenever it's kids on the field at Parramatta, me and Andrew will be on there, and it's going to be
on. What about the positives, guys? I think we've pretty much wrapped the positives up saying when you actually look at it, it's quite a good, strong squad, especially the spine. The spine is, if it's fully fit, arguably the best spine in the competition. So or the top 3 at least. I can guarantee that. Any other positives for the Storm?
I think it's just the
Their
excitement
coach.
around seeing Pappenhausen run around again.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
coach.
the coach.
Oh,
Could be his last year.
It's rumored to be his
Could
last
be.
year, so they need any motivation for the year to go into it. And I don't think it will be his last year in the NRL. It won't even be his last year at Melbourne, but surely there's a way they're going to get up for that, final thing of Craig Bellamy at Melbourne.
Oh, I've got to show this one. There's some fighting words happening. It
Put
told
that
you
over
this
Adam's
tonight's
face.
episode. I just feel like it's going to erupt, and we haven't even got to the juicy
Andrew,
teas yet.
I'm going to address this really quickly. Andrew,
Oh.
don't act all tough. You're in my DMs more than you are a girl from Maps, all right? So just chill. It'll happen, and you'll regret it. That's all.
Just one last point I want to make, but I'll quickly put this question up. Is Big Nas going to be an edge forward? So I think he'll come off the bench. He'll be that sort of bench forward role because he can fill in either middle or back row. I think it'll just depend on how the match is flowing. It's hard to say now. I think ideally you'd probably put him in. You probably put him in up front. I don't know if the edge is awesome when it comes to theory, but I don't think he has the kilometers
The
in his
engine.
legs to be a
Yeah.
I'm a bit cautious about putting him on the edge. So Adam is his biggest fan, but I don't know if we go to him for his comment on Nas. We keep him caged. Lastly on the Storm, before we give our our predicted finish, I'm really excited to see if Fa'alongo is the number 14, how they use him, and how long they use him. I think early on we could probably see him ease Pappenhausen back. So expect look out. He's getting his shirt off. We've got to keep it PG here.
It's not even 9 o'clock yet.
Oh, hang on. He's getting his. I don't even want to.
He's just showing off his half-broken shoulders to Andrew.
Sorry, guys.
So, remember, we have a massive podcast viewing as well. So for the podcast listeners, he's literally taken his League of Inches shirt off. As I'm talking, it's put me off my point. It was going to be a really good point as well. And he's chucked on an old looking, I think
Maitland
it's Panthers.
Pickers.
Actually, might not be Penrith. It's Maitland, but it looks like
Maitland
Penrith.
pumpkin pickers.
Look, I was trying to be impartial this podcast, but I pulled the League of Inches shirt out for the first time since last year. And I'm actually allergic to dust, and it's got to me nose, so I've had to take it off because I can't stop sneezing.
Oh. All right. Look, let's move on. Before we move on, let's get
Let's
our
rate 'em.
ratings. Rate them. So I'll go first. I'll go him in the 1st to 4th. I just think that squad will get top 4, especially the Craig Bellamy effect.
That's your placing.
Yes.
But yeah.
Well,
I'll
we
put him
haven't
in
done the
top 4.
ranking for the actual.
Yeah.
Sorry, we haven't done the
We'll just
rankings
flip
for
it.
the
Let's
games
do the
and
place,
losses.
and then we'll rank them.
All right.
Yeah, I've got top 4. 1 to 4. That's where I believe they will finish. And if they don't, then it's a failure of a season.
Yeah. Mika.
Yeah, I'd have him top 4.
Don't be too excited by that.
No,
Adam.
I'm not. I hate them, but they're going to be there.
I've got them
Impartial.
5 to 8 for reasons stated earlier. I'm going to quickly give you my rating as well because I'm going to duck off for 2 seconds and grab a tissue. And my nose,
He's allergic.
Oh, it's bad. My nose is running shockingly. But look, my ratings for their recruitment based on their re-signings, and I know Melbourne have obviously got to be careful because they do have a salary cap now. And I'll give them a 6 just because the players they let go obviously were time to go. Be right back.
Yeah, Mika, work up now. Give us your rating for obviously the games, losses, and as you'll remember now, it's the re-signing and off-contract list as well.
Because there's a mirror. There was a mirror behind him, so thank goodness he had pants on. For the viewers at home, oh my god.
Yeah, I'll go about a 6 as well. Like, I know that board probably doesn't show it, but whatever you got that spine that got locked up and re-signed, it's probably pretty good roster management, isn't it?
Yeah, Jez.
Yeah, I've got a 7. Purely on the re-signings, and when a club doesn't have to do many ins and outs, they're on the right path. That's the sign of a good club, and that's just the sign of the Melbourne Storm. So they're doing things right down there. It's a 7.
Yeah, I'll go 6.5. Just sort of, it's one of those mess sort of ones for mine. Now we go. Oh, hang on a second. I've accidentally skipped forward. The Newcastle Knights. This is the first one that will really take off for you guys. The level is going up. I'm already getting a bit hot. I might have to chuck an Adam and take the shirt off in a minute. I'll run through the gains and losses just to give everyone a bit of time to breathe, relax, and let's get back into it. Gains: Jed Cartwright from the Rabbitohs.
This is why
Jack
Adam went and got
Cogger
some tissues.
from the Penrith Panthers. Tom Jenkins, sneaky signing there, Penrith Panthers. Kai Pitts Paul, Wigan, Super League. Will
Paul.
Price, Huddersfield, Super League as well. The losses, quite a big list actually. Falmo, I always get this guy's first name always does me.
Famanu Brown?
Yeah, Brown, Hull, Adam Clune, Huddersfield, Lachlan Fitzgibbon, Warrington, Bailey Hodgson, Sea Eagles, Oren Keeley, so great. And last week for the Dolphins, Kurt Mann, the Bulldogs, Lachlan Miller, Super League Leeds. I was wishing we saw a bit more of Lachlan Miller actually. Simi Sasagi for the Raiders, and the big one, Dom Young to Sasagi, Dom Young to the Roosters. The re-signings list: Crosland 2026, Frizzell 2026, Dylan Lucas 2025, Marju 2026, and Tuala 2024. So, Jez, I'm going to leave you to last, being the Knights supporter. Mika, I'm going to go to you first. Gains and losses. What do you think of that list?
Yeah, just on that too, I think I saw they reckon Bradman Best is getting pretty close to re-signing for Newcastle, I believe, isn't he? Or has, or will. Yep.
That's pretty much done.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the biggest loss is Dominic Young. That's going to be a very, very big loss. But, I mean, Cogger's going to be a really good – well, there's talk of him – well, a lot of people want him to start. Do you reckon that's going to happen, Jeremy, or what?
I want him to.
No, I don't think he's going to start. The way that the team's kind of shaping up, like they keep saying he's putting pressure on the starters, he's putting pressure on them. But I don't see him taking a starting position just yet.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I think he's a pretty decent guy, though. So you got him. The re-signings are where it's at for me. Frizzell, Crossland came into form the end of last year. Marzu, I think, has been an absolute beast for him. So yeah, I think most of those losses they had to let go, other than Young.
Yeah,
Adam's favourite team
that
shipped a lot to Super League.
Yeah. Lachlan Fitzgibbon. So the year before, I know I've jumped in. You'll save me till last, but I can't help it. Lachlan Fitzgibbon, probably 2-3 years ago, we were cursing him out, calling it the NIB play. He's only there because of his sponsorships. But then last year, and even the year before, he was outstanding. He played his role perfectly. We actually missed him when he was off the field. So he was injured for a couple of games, and you could actually see that there was quite a big hole attacking and defensively. So for him to actually go over to Warrington, I think he's actually in the peak of his career. So Warrington have picked up a good one in Lachlan Fitzgibbon.
You actually took the words out of my mouth. That's probably the nicest thing I was going to say. But look, those are obviously know I hate the Knights, but Jeremy will see the side of me that is actually fair and calls it as I see it with the Knights. I think Fitzgibbon was ready to go to the Super League. I'm all for shipping players off the Super League, but I don't really think they've filled him in a good way. Like, by the look of it, they're going to replace him with Jed Cartwright, coming from Penrith, I'm guessing. Jed Cartwright.
Or Pierce Paul.
He's been everywhere.
Or Pierce Paul.
Pierce Paul. So a Super League player that won't make it over here because no Super League, he won't make it. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Can't even spell his name right. Got T instead of an R.
Batiste.
He was too excited typing it.
I had to look
the R and T are right next to each other on the keyboard, so that's.
Can somebody get straight into the concerns? Can I just get straight into the concerns now?
Hang on, no. Wait.
Okay.
Well, we're going to do it properly this time. So let's rank the signings first. So the signings, the losses.
We've got heaps more to talk about here.
Okay, hang on. All right, I'll bring something up. You mentioned I would start Jack Cogger. I would have him at half.
Oh, is that we've got to the concerns?
I'd have Jack Cogger as my control halfback and Hastings 5'8".
So I wasn't
Okay.
allowed to go to concerns, but Joel was. Let's get back to the gains and losses firstly.
Well, we're talking about it because it's a signing.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
It is a sign.
I personally believe the gains don't outweigh the losses here. Looking at their gains, they've gone for depth signings in that regard. You know, none of these players you look at on these lists, besides the blokes that have come from the Super League, where most reserve grade players in the Newcastle, like most reserve grade players in the NRL or New South Wales Rugby League could go across the Super League and start, let's be honest. They haven't replaced, they've just gone for depth. Well, Cogger's not going to start over the fact that Hastings and Gamble took him to the second week of the finals last year, even though they were passengers, to be honest. But he's not going to force his way in there based on that. I'm not concerned yet, but he's not going to. You look at their re-signings. Crosland deserved his re-signing with the year. Frizzell's getting on. Lucas, obviously, young player. Marzu, obviously, was great with the ball. Defensively, still not isn't that solid. He has never been a strong defender. That's why he changed his name to escape his past. And Tuala barely even saw. Players don't know. Greg Marzu was known as Greg Lazarino, and he was at Parramatta before he went to the Titans. So, Aaron Tuala barely saw any football last year. And I actually thought he was one of Newcastle's better players the year before. So, once again, lots of depth there, but I don't get it based on the fact that they were average for the majority of last year.
I find it odd that a lot of the signings are depth, especially like even Cogger, wherever you put him, most people rate him as a depth. When even though Big Willie was probably poorly timed when he said it, their halves don't get a start at any other club in the NRL. So why wouldn't they be chasing a legitimate starting half before they're signing depth players?
Yeah,
I agree with
it's
that.
a great question. And, you know, when Willie Mason did make those comments, I think everyone kind of went, yeah, you're right. It was ill-timed, but yeah,
Absolutely,
you're right.
Absolutely.
And this Will Price from Huddersfield, he is a fullback or halfback. So they've signed another one to kind of fill that 14 or just play New South Wales Cup. So there are a couple of concerns, I guess, in terms of that sort of depth. But Jack Cogger, you can't, I don't know, for round one, you can't kick out the two halves that Adam said took us to week 2 of the finals, like 10 in a row, and you're just going to go, oh, sorry, one of you won't play. So Cogger will have to force his way into the team. But the thing is, when he gets in there, I don't see him leaving. Whether it's in the 6 or the 7, I don't see him leaving.
Can you go back and word that correctly? The halves that jumped on a ride of Kalen Ponga's best year of football and took them to the week 2 of the finals.
Yes, but they're in that starting side, so you don't change that. They don't deserve to get dropped.
Come on, Adam. You remember the halves that took Parramatta to 09 grand final?
That was about to be my exact point when we get to the concerns.
Sean Rudder won a grand final, so
I could have won a grand final playing outside of
that play you mentioned
on that
fullback half, Jeremy. I'm assuming he's there to take the place of Lockie Miller. Because
that was kind of a swap there. And you know, Joel said we wish we saw more of Lockie Miller. We saw enough of Lockie Miller. He burst onto the scene. He was fantastic, but then he got found out very quickly and went very quiet, made a lot of mistakes, and just lost all of his confidence. Found his way back in New South Wales Cup and played well. So that one made sense. He wanted to go and play more first grade rugby league, so off to Super League you go.
So 2 things I want to bring up with this before we give our ratings for the signing stuff. Tom Jenkins, I will say this. He was stuck behind a ridiculous Penrith backline. He's actually a quality player. So people might look at that and go, he was a reserve grader at Penrith. They've signed a reserve grader. No, he is a legitimate first grade player. Any other club last year, he would have been playing majority of the season. He was just unfortunately behind a stacked Penrith side that had Taruva come through, and we all thought Taruva was going to be quite a quality player anyway. So he is a very, very good player. He is not a reserve grader. Jack Cogger was instrumental in the Penrith Panthers winning that grand final last year. So I know, as you say, these 2 playmakers guided you guys to 10 in a row and stuff, and you've all said sort of it could have been passengers as well. I won't go disrespectfully and say they were passengers. They were clearly good players and playing good football. But they didn't get the nice to the grand final. No, I'm not saying you did. But they didn't get the nice to the grand final.
Say that either.
Where Cogger actually stepped up on the biggest stage of rugby league, the NRL grand final, and he was one of the best players on the field when he came on, and he was one of the differences. So I can understand you don't want to change too much, but at the same time, you want to start very well. And for mine, that means having Hastings and Cogger in your halves to benefit and maximize the start. Because the other thing you got to worry about, I know Pong is fit at the moment and he looks really good, but we spoke about it a few times already this off season. He's one head knock away, and if that happens early on, they need to have someone like Jack Cogger step up and take over that team for that game that Pong is out, and have that attacking spark and that person who goes, let's just relax, guys. Let's get through what we need to get through and get moving again, which I think Jack Cogger's now matured enough to become that player.
I just want to
absolutely, and that's why I said once he's in, he's in. He will not. Once he makes that spot his, once he gets that opportunity, they will not be kicking him out.
So on that, once he's in, he's in. You think he's the best player for the position? Like, shouldn't you?
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense as I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah, shouldn't you have him on the park as early as you can, knowing how important?
All right, gamble out, Cogger in.
There we go. We got there.
Can we go back to what Joel said about Cogger in the grand final? And it's one thing coming into a grand final when your team's getting comfortably beat, playing outside of Nathan Cleary. And let's be honest, they weren't playing the Penrith style of football in that grand final that got them the win. It's completely different being a settled halfback after you control a team around by yourself, week in, week out. And I've known Jack for a long time. I've played Oztag with him. I've been coached by him, like refereed, everything like that at long times. Jack left Newcastle because, no, it's true though, but Jack left Newcastle because he wasn't up to playing first grade at Newcastle. He went away to the Bulldogs, got an opportunity there. Newcastle told him he wasn't going to be good enough. Simple as that. He was never going to be a controlling half. Went across. Obviously, he's done some wonderful things at Penrith, but I look through their lists and concerns. I'd be worried if I'm a Newcastle fan at their depth in the halves because, as being touched on, they relied on Ponga so much last year. If Ponga, I'm going to compare it back to, I know Mike would have said the same thing. The Parramatta Eels of 2010. In 2009, Jared Hayne, who we can't mention, but we're going to mention, guided Parramatta to a grand final on the back of some pretty average halves. And no disrespect, then they played a lot of footy, but they didn't really go on too much after that. Now, you had Jeff Robson, who come on as pretty much a reserve grade player from Manly, come to Parramatta. You had
Daniel Mortimer,
who we thought was going to be great, but didn't go on to much else. The year after,
really pretty eyes.
He did,
yes. He did got a premiership ring, yeah. But Parramatta the year after, all teams did was mark up Jared Hayne and put pressure on him. I don't think that Kalen Ponga in his career and with his injuries and head knocks he's had consistently can be the man that's marked every game. Every single time he gets hit late or, a bit high or whatever, he seems to go off or lay down or they seem to come out the trainers seem to check on him. And it's going to happen this year. He's going to be targeted. He's the Dally M Player of the Year, much controversy, and he will be targeted. I don't think Newcastle have the players to step up to that. Whether you put Jack Cogger there or you've got Gamble or you've got Hastings.
So Jez,
but he's also the ninth best player. So it was like with Andrew Johns playing. You take him out, you win the game. So if you base your defensive reads around putting as much pressure as you can on Kalen Ponga and limiting his time on the ball, then you're going to do well to beat the Newcastle Knights. But I don't know. I think a conversation around Dane Gagai and his contract. So I don't even think they've even said anything about what's going to happen with him in the future at the Newcastle Knights.
Maybe a wait and see.
It will be a wait and see. And I think they might give Dane the opportunity to maybe call time himself. But he's also, he's not playing terrible rugby league. But if there's someone that could be playing better rugby league in his position, you've probably got to, get out of the way. And, sorry, in the off contract, I spelt this guy's name wrong. It's Brodie fucking Jones. And he should be signed until 2030 because he is the life. I love Brodie fucking Jones.
He is.
And every time he comes on, everyone around me knows it. So
you're very lucky him forever. Very lucky he didn't go South City this year. Just on that off contract, David Armstrong's going to the Super League. Brodie fucking Jones. But thank you. David Armstrong, Newcastle's leading try scorer in the New South Wales Cup, fullback winger, centre, off to the Super League.
Lee Leopards. Yep.
Heard it here first. Once again, guys, this is why you tune into League of Inches shows, because we just breaking news every time. We have inside information, especially when it comes to the Knights.
One more point. One more point on the Newcastle Knights.
Hang on. I want you to answer this question because we have encouraged viewers to get involved.
Okay.
I think this is a very valid point for you. Does the Knights have the same problem Manly have? Do they rely on Ponga as much as Manly rely on Turbo? Is this a concern for you? Because it's a pretty valid point, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it is. I don't like to say that we're a one-man team, but we're pretty bloody close to it. So, yeah, I don't know if we're at the same
Hang on,
sort of...
stop. You've got Brody fucking Jones. You're a two-man team.
Oh, sorry. No, we're winning the comp. We've got Brody fucking Jones. Yeah, look, we are in similar territory to Turbo. Where Manly don't have Turbo, it takes out a whole lot of their attacking power. They also have Daly Cherry Evans in the halves, though. So they've got a bit more across the board where we really heavily rely on one bloke. So we might even be in more of dire straits if Kalen Ponga's not on the field in comparison to Manly. That was when Lockie Miller stood up last time and played some really outstanding rugby league at fullback. But who knows? Maybe this Will Price might be the guy that fills the void if needed.
Could be. Are we ready to get onto the ratings and rankings?
I did have one more point, though, for the Newcastle Knights. We've surpassed 24,000 members, which is humongous. It just shows what one good year and what a player that you can build a club around can do to put bums on seats. So that is outstanding. And just in comparison, in 2010, we only had 5,000 members.
How many people live in Newcastle?
My father and I were one of them. So individual memberships.
Hang
on. How many people live in Newcastle?
Hang on, Martin Brothers. I'm going to stop here and say,
well, you're
I know you. What you're going to you're both going to come with some hate here, and it's going to take over your personal interest. But I will applaud that because there is no doubt in my mind. Hang on. There is no doubt in my mind. The Newcastle fans are one of the best in the game, and there is almost no better sight than a Sunday arvo, that Knights stadium packed out. I still have that vision of Dom Young scoring that try last year and the crowd just all erupting. Honestly, it was one of the best things we've seen last year. I feel like
it was electric. You've never been abused by Mavis. You've never been abused by Mavis from Mayfield.
Mavis and Mayfield. How many people live in Newcastle? It's a genuine question. How many people live in Newcastle?
It's about 1 million in the whole Newcastle, Maitland, Hunter Valley area.
For a one team town, I would have thought their membership numbers would be higher than some of the Sydney teams.
322,000 apparently, just in the Newcastle area.
In Newcastle, you got other areas, Maitland, Port Stephens, Lake Macquarie. I believe, and this goes for every fan as well.
How many live in Parramatta?
No one in Parramatta supports Parramatta, mate. I believe you're crazy not to be an NRL member if you're going to get to more than 5 or 6 games. I'm going to give the points of that. My Parramatta membership, I think, costs $450 for the season. It's $72 to sit in the seats I looked at the other day when tickets went on sale. So you make 6 games. Obviously, you get your merchandise and stuff included as well, your bumper stickers, stuff like that. And you pay for your season. So for a town like Newcastle, where it's obviously easier to get to games, you're crazy not to be a member. So those memberships should be higher. But
also, it's a massive shout out to the women's team. They have added those numbers dramatically as well, and their success, the memberships are on the back of that as well. So hats off to the ladies. They are definitely contributing massively to the membership numbers here in Newcastle.
Yeah, and a quick shout out. And I'll be impartial this time. Newcastle being a working town with a lot of weekend workers and shift workers and stuff would be a lot of the reason why a lot of the people that I mentioned before with my smartass comment aren't actual members. Because it's very hard to get to games when you've got to work a lot of weekends.
Absolutely.
Just on a quick point that Jez just made, I just want to let everyone know while they are listening, the interviews part of League of Inches is returning very soon as well in the next couple of weeks. And I've spoken to a couple of the Knights girls already who are keen to jump on and have a bit of a chat about last year and then things how they're looking this year as well. So really cool and keen to see those interviews. Now let's give our ratings and rankings because I know there's a lot of Para fans waiting and that is the next team. And honestly, we told you this episode will be a longer one. The way it's going, we could be till midnight. Again, I will start at Mika actually this time. We'll work down and then back up, and we'll finish on Jez. Mika, we'll go both at the same time. So your rankings for the gains and losses part of things, and then where you think they'll finish that bracket.
Well, I gave Melbourne a 6, didn't I? I guess I got to give Newcastle a 5 because Dominic Young's a massive loss, and I think they should have been chasing halves harder. Where I think they'll finish is I think they're going to be one of the 2 teams that slide out of the 8, because I don't think Ponga, despite I think he's a fantastic player and he was in great form, I don't think he can do that again 2 years in a row. As I said last week, any team without 2 top line halves in the NRL, I don't think can win a grand final anyway.
Yeah, I'm giving them a 4. As stated earlier, just due to the fact that they've gone for the depth and what they've released. They've released some pretty big players when you look at that list. Obviously, helped them a long way in the last couple of years. So giving them a 4. Look, we give them a bit of a benefit there for some of the re-signings. I just want to make one more comment about the Knights, and it's not a bad one, but it's in regards to something that could probably help Ponga in a way. I know I've obviously bagged at a half, so is Michael, and I've felt that for a while, but I think something that can really help Newcastle this year is seeing a fit, and I can't get his right name, but Jaden Brayley. I was going to say Braden because I always get him confused, but Jaden Brayley on the field. He's been probably one of the most unluckiest blokes in rugby league world in the last, 3 years since he's been at Newcastle, 2-3 years, however long it's been. He's had every injury under the sun. So he's a good player. It was obviously the better brother when they come to at Cronulla, and we've seen how good his brother has been. So getting him on the field, I think, will help Newcastle massively. And they kind of haven't had it. Well, they haven't had that last 2-3 years where they've had a genuine hooker there. Really. Yep. I know Crosland did a great job for Newcastle last year, but he's not a genuine creative hooker. He's just quick out of dummy half. So that'll help their halves massively if they get him there, because I believe there is some weaknesses in their forward patch where he can get a bit of a roll on as well. Where I think they'll finish, as touched on earlier, 9-12. I've got the Dolphins ending their season in the last week, as stated last week. But it's the same thing. I just think there's too much pressure on Ponga. And look, if he comes out and takes them to a top 8 spot again, we'll be talking about how good he is at the end of the year. But I think it's just going to be too much for him to back it up. And I think last year as well, which I haven't hid from saying, they were touched on the dick a bit with that run home. They obviously had a pretty easy run home. And even when they played some of the harder teams, you look at, they beat Melbourne at home, they beat South Sydney at home, Cronulla at home, but they were all at home. Had a good run of home games against the harder teams, and they played the weaker teams away. So let's not forget they were sitting. Jeremy, where were they sitting before we went and watched them smash the Bulldogs? Like 12th or 13th or something like that? Maybe 14th?
Yeah.
Obviously went on a massive run, but
third last at one point, I think.
Yeah, the hardest game they had was playing the Dolphins in Perth, who were struggling at the time, and they really should have lost that game. They found a way to pull it out their ass.
Yeah. I will give them a rating of 5.5 for the recruitment side of things. I do really like Jack Cogger and Tom Jenkins as signings. And from what I've heard about Kai Pearce-Paul, I think he might break that trend of English players struggling. I actually have been told quite reliably as well that he is quite a player. So really, and it's likely within the first few weeks he'll nail down that starting edge spot as well. So really keen to see how he goes. Even Will Price, if he does get a chance, keen to see what he's got. My predicted finish, I don't want it to be a jump on here, but I actually have, just because of the teams that I think are improving as well, I just couldn't. I tried to find a spot in my 8 for him because I wanted to be with Jez a little bit. I knew what was coming with the Martin boys. I just can't. So I've got to put him in the 9-12 as well. I'm just a bit worried on how much they rely on Ponga at the moment. Not saying that a lot of their squad is still quality players. I just think a lot of the other teams around him, even back half of the 8 and out of the 8 from last year, have improved quite well. And even teams like the Titans and the Dolphins, I think, have improved immensely, and that'll put pressure on the Knights as well. Jez, final say on your team?
Yeah, well, I bleed red and blue, have for a very long time. And hopefully my son and
Top
future
4.
offspring do as well, so I can keep the tradition going of sitting on the hill and watching the Knights play, hopefully with 3 generations. So I've given them a 6 for the recruitment, and it's purely over just a little bit of excitement about the new blood coming in. I think Cogger coming home is outstanding, and I'm going to renege on everything I said. Let's see him start round 1, because why not? I think Phoenix Crosland getting re-signed is huge for him and his effort that he put in. He really developed as a player, as Adam said, but it was more defensively that I was super impressed with. He missed hardly any tackles. Playing in the middle of the field for 80 minutes, he was great. So, yeah, I've given him a 6, and I've probably got my red and blue glasses on here. But I just think with the momentum, with the members, with the home crowd, I believe every home game is going to be near to a sellout. I've got him in the top 4.
We knew it was coming. We knew it was coming on that.
Can I just add one? Can I add one more thing to that? I just
turn.
can't wait. I can't wait till the end of the year to see 23,998 disappointed members.
Let's not get like that.
I was being nice to Jeremy and his father there when I said 23,998.
I want to see Jeremy on the hill with a sign that says "Rise of the Phoenix" after that talk about Phoenix Crosland.
Good bloke too.
Let's move.
He was hilarious.
Let's move on. I know there's a lot of Para fans out there waiting and they've been anticipating this one. So I really appreciate you guys joining.
God, here we go again.
So here we go. Adam's another costume change. He's turning into Sterlo by the looks of it. I want to obviously start here by the gains and the losses. And again, get involved with the comments. We know there's a lot of Para fans out there probably watching this. They've been messaging the page, so they better be watching. So please get involved. There's a lot to talk about. Gains, Morgan Harper, Manly Sea Eagles, Kelma, Tuolagi, Sea Eagles as well. The losses, Jake Arthur, Sea Eagles, Wanga Blake to St. Helens, Nathan Brown released to Manly. They're just waiting to secure that contract. Andrew Davey retired. Josh Hodson retired. Jack Murchie, Huddersfield. Mitch Rain retired. A couple of notable re-signings. Dejan Arce to 2024. Dylan Brown 2031. But there's so much T's and C's to read about that deal. So let's not get involved with that one. Bryce Cartwright, 2025. Matt Dury, interestingly, because Brad Arthur seemed to hate his guts last year, got an extension to 2025. I don't know how that's even happened. He's probably got around Brad Arthur for that one. Remember Greg, good player and Adam's best mate now after sighting last year, is pretty much enemies. 2025.
We're frenemies now.
Jermaine Hopgood 2025, and if I was Parramatta, I'd be getting him in the office once again and extending that to about 2030. I think he's one of the best players coming through in the forwards. Mitch Moses 2028, Will Penasini 2026, Russell 2025, Simonson 2024, and Sevo 2027. Goodness me, I missed that one. I didn't think it was that long we extended him for. Anyway, I kept Jez for last for his team, so he can go first for this one. Let's get the ball rolling. We obviously the other three of us are Para fans, so try not to be too biased. But this one could get heated because I've got some things to say, and I'm sure the others do as well. Jez, open it up for us.
I don't care. Next. No, I'm kidding. I think Morgan Harper, what a signing. We love a bit of Morgan Harper. You've done well there.
He's trying banter with that one.
Yeah. He's on the skinny diet as well, apparently, compared to my picture down there. I think you've got rid of a bit of dead weight, as Adam liked to say. So Josh Hodson, what a signing. Mitch Rain, well done. You retired him out of the game. Congratulations. You've had some good re-signings, though. So Mitch Moses to 28. Well done. I would have him in my team any day of the week. I am a big fan of Mitchell Moses. I think I made that quite clear when it became Origin time, how much I enjoy watching him play. Even as a Red and Blue Knights supporter, love watching Mitch Moses run his business. Wiramu Greg was just funny for the banter between Adam putting him off every week, and then he does something great. So it's good to see him. Dylan Brown. So I think we still haven't seen his potential yet, and that's scary. So if he can sort out his garbage and what's been going on, and I know we've got the Para Cave podcast here in the comments. For someone who's dreaming, you shouldn't throw stones in your glass houses there, pal. If he sorts out all of his off-field garbage and decides that he wants to be a very good rugby league player, Dylan Brown's going to be amazing. And I'm really excited to see that happen. But until he can sort out his own life, we might not see that just yet. You forgot one mention. The Eels have joined force with Ned Brockman. Now, Ned Brockman, the bloke that ran all around Australia, is currently running around the world as well. And his brand for chocolate milk, of all things, is going to be on your trainers' jerseys. Now, his motto, I think, is very fitting for Parramatta fans. His motto is, just keep showing up. So when things get tough this year,
if only,
when Greg consistently makes all those mistakes, and when you two are about to, or you three are about to tee off on your own club, just remember, just keep showing up, will you? And that's all I've got on the
for 38 painful years.
Yeah.
Well, I'm only 32, but fans have been.
By the way, quick plug, all the Para fans are listening, you can get us on the Talking Para podcast once the season kicks off as well. So make sure you follow that page on Facebook to make sure you tune into those shows. But you mentioned Dylan Brown. I just want to quickly say on Dylan Brown, because I was very boisterous on that podcast, on that show last year about him, and it got quite heated. So it could do the same thing tonight. But I agree with you 100%, Jez. I think he could become the best 5'8" in the game if he wants to be. That's the big question there, if he wants to be, because he obviously got into the trouble that he did. I personally still believe if he was playing, we still would have made finals last year, even though we did have some other injuries. I think that was crucial. So I single-handedly put him for the sole reason we missed out. But look, there was other players that didn't find form at all last year, but just didn't help at all. And if he wants to be demanding the big bucks that he is getting, he needs to make sure he's performing week to week. And he's arguably the best defensive 5'8" already as well. We see how much cover defense he does make. And he's just, honestly, I don't know what it is with him. I don't know if Brad Arthur's caged him up a bit or something, but he's stepping his agility is some of the best in the NRL. Like, there's all these other players we talk about. Go and find some highlight packages of him as a youngster and stuff. He is remarkable. Just let him run and let him do that stuff, because he's one of the most dangerous players in the game. Let him run.
But if he's going to run, he can't be a 5'8". I'm sorry, but my biggest criticism of Dylan Brown's game is his game management. It has been for years, and that's where he's got to step it up. And I know we've had the conversation before, we had on the Parramatta one. I think Dylan Brown should go to fullback eventually. But Michael's against he's going to be sitting here shaking his head, it's going to fall off. But my problem with Dylan is he needs to mature off the field, obviously, but on the field as a player. I remember watching an interview with him a couple of years ago, and it was before he had the breakout year in 2022. And he literally said, Mitch has to direct me around the field. Now, if Mitch is wasting his time directing Dylan around the field, telling him what to do all the time, it shows why Parramatta struggle when Mitchell Moses isn't on the field. And that's where Dylan's got to step up his game management skills. As soon as Dylan steps up his game management and can take the game, by the scruff of the game when it's on the line and create those big plays that Mitchell can create. And I'm not talking about in the first 10 minutes when he seems to be able to do it. That's when Dylan Brown becomes one of the best 5'8" in the game.
Mika, you're shaking your head then. I'm shaking my head as well, but you go.
Yeah, you don't take the New Zealand 5'8" and move him to a position he's never played before. That's just crazy talk. Unless you have a better 5'8" to put in that position, which we don't.
We may have. You don't know that.
No, but we don't. So
we do.
I think that's crazy talk. I think the problem with Dylan running it at 5'8" is he's always thinking run first, and other teams know that. Like, yes, he's an amazing ball runner, but without the other strings in his bow quite yet, then they always know he's going to run. And he might run, 20 times a game and he might get through twice, but the other 18 times they see it coming. So I think that's the problem there, and that'll come with maturity. People forget how young he is and how young he started in NRL, I guess. That's my thoughts on Dylan Brown. And actually, one more thought. I have one more thought. And it's back to he who we shall not mention. I remember the year before he had 09, he got shot at in the cross. Jared Hayne, he got shot at, and sort of was his wake-up moment. And I don't know, I just reading all the articles and watching Dylan speak, I'm kind of hoping that he's had his wake-up moment now, because as Jeremy said, like if we see the best of Dylan Brown when he focuses on his footy and wants to be there week in, week out, he could be anything.
Imagine him, Mitch Mothers, and then Gutho absolutely firing. You're unstoppable. Like, what could be at Parramatta?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. That's the annoying thing at the moment. It's always a could be. It never seems to happen. And that's the thing that I just want this squad to realize is that there is still people saying the window's closed or it's closing.
No.
I feel like it's still there. Like if they can put it on the park and realize the potential of some of these players, it's still there. And Moses, for mine, will get it to that next level. Like people have already seen posts. I think he'll feature heavily once again in Origin time, and he's got to that level of a player now, and he really needs to become that at club level. And as Adam sort of mentioned, that full game manager, week in, week out, doing the right kicks and the like, which he has got right most of the time, especially last year. Just, I don't know, we weren't able to capitalize on a lot of it. But Dill Brown, he just needs to realize both on and off the field, he's a first grade footballer now. Start taking it seriously or start second guessing what you want to do as a career, because he has a huge potential right now to take the next 10 years and become an absolute star of the game that's remembered for years and years after he retires. Or he can quickly become one of those juniors that was a has-been and what could have been career. So on the losses, I just want to mention Davey Hodgson. I was very critical of them throughout last year. In a way, glad that they've retired because BA loved him and he was always going to pick him whenever there was a chance to pick him. It wasn't what was right for our club, I thought. And now he doesn't get the chance to pick him. So he's sort of his hand's been forced and he has to pick some other players. That leads us into the hooker debate. And boys, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Obviously, he's come out and said Brad Arthur only wants one hooker. It's either going to be Brendan Hands or Joey Lussick. Who's your choice and why?
First of all, Brad Arthur's an idiot for saying that, because we learnt last year very early on that you need to carry two hookers in this game at Parramatta. Brad Arthur's plan, if he only carries one hooker, is to move Gutherson to hooker, which, screws up our backline movement straight away. Or his other plan is to play Hopgood there because he played a bit of juniors at hooker. I don't agree with one hooker. If he does go with one hooker, he goes with Joey Lussick. But I think it should be Lussick at 9 and Hands at 14. Reason being, Hands can cover more positions.
Arcee's getting the 14. Is that a chance?
But why? What's he going to achieve there?
I don't know.
Like,
I just think maybe he's trying to spark things up. I don't know.
If you put Hands at 14,
he brings a spark.
He brings a spark in hooker. He can cover half 5'8". And let's not forget, both your half and your 5'8" defensively can play fullback. If your fullback goes down, your fullback can play in the centres quite easily. You've got movements. You can plan for that by having a really good solid 14. The problem Brad Arthur's made is previously he's gone with 4 forwards on the bench, and that's where we completely fuck up. I'm not going to get into concerns yet, but my biggest concern this year is Brad Arthur's approach as a coach.
Get into it. Why not? You started it. That is a concern. That's the hooker. So we may as well
I've
keep
put him
going
down
with
as
that.
my first coach axed for 24, remember?
You did, and it's a big possibility.
Yeah,
Look,
that's right.
Just looking back at Parramatta last year, it was one of those things of what could have gone wrong did go wrong. Injuries, suspensions. We got on that run of games, and then obviously we lost Regan Campbell to some stupidity. Obviously when he dropped his knees in the back and stuff like that. Just other things as well, like, round 1 game against Melbourne, not making excuses, but it goes to extra time, and we got screwed. We got screwed with a shit call that they continue to screw up 3 or 4 times throughout the year. The week after, against a Cronulla team we should have beaten, the week after that against Manly, we got screwed by another call. So it could have been a different start to the year. The point I made is Parramatta missed out on the finals by 1 win. If you look what they went through last year, losing Dylan Brown, a couple of rough things at the start, and a couple of games they threw away, 1 win is nothing. Were they the team they were the year before? No. But the thing I didn't like about Parramatta last year was everything they seemed to learn in 2022, everything they were coached. And we know that obviously Andrew Johns was hanging around Parramatta for quite a while. Everything we saw in Mitchell Moses' game, the kicking the ball, your repeat set, stuff like that, it was gone. There was just no composure and no want to win games. It's like when we needed to win a game, the year before we got ourselves in a position to win a game, we couldn't do it. So my concern is, do we have a good enough game plan? Is Brad Arthur a good enough coach to give us a game plan to go with the consistently changing game that we need. Because in 2022, we changed up in that finals run. We got to a grand final and we shit ourselves because we couldn't go back to what we were playing when we played Penrith before. Last year, it just looked like there was no game plan at time. We went on that run of games by throwing the ball around, having a bit of fun because we were playing for our season every week. And then when it got to playing the good teams, we couldn't defensively match it because we were just gassed. So I just don't know if he's evolving and he's one of the top coaches that can actually take us to a grand final.
One thing I want to say on that, last year, I don't blame the referees. I think the players lost it for us. They just had a piss poor approach from the word go. They treated making the grand final as a successful year, and they didn't have the fire that we've seen other teams have in the past when they missed the grand final and wanting to make sure they win it the next year. That's my thing. I thought it was a piss poor mentality from the whole playing group, apart from maybe 2 or 3 individuals who seem to pop up week in, week out. I'm not going to use, if they're sitting there and if I hear any of those sorts of excuses from the playing group early on, or Brad Arthur and stuff saying, oh, if a ball bounced differently for this game or a result this way and a referee gave us a whistle, like, I'll give it away. Like, if these guys are seriously not going to take ownership of how they played last year and how they controlled themselves or how they held themselves on and off the field, because there was some stuff that we've heard and stuff, and obviously with Brown and that as well, they just got to pull up their sleeves and realize that this is a group that can do something. It's quickly going to go away. Like, if you're going to treat making a grand final and getting flogged by Penrith as a successful year, well done, be that club. But guess what? You're going to quickly become the next Tigers. You're going to quickly become that team that has the next 3, 4, 5 years of just shithousery.
On saying that, so the Broncos are in the same position as you guys leading into this year in terms of they've made the grand final. Penrith put a job on them. I do not see the Broncos.
It's close.
Yeah, well, they beat
them. I wouldn't say a job.
Oh, well, they beat them. I don't see the Broncos rolling over and going, that was a successful year. Let's live that entitled sort of mindset of, if it doesn't work, then it's not our fault. I see them, and I see them only as their benchmark as making that grand final and winning it.
Yep. So the big difference with the Broncos is the Broncos were struggling for quite a while until last year. So they're still going to be hungry. Parramatta have been up for so long, but they kept getting those week 2 or those week 3 or the week 2 exits for so long, or week 1. Obviously in 2022, they went to a grand final, and that was the big difference. And it was like they were happy to achieve more. I think Brisbane they've been weak since 2019, essentially, when they got absolutely waddled by Parramatta.
Yeah. But my comparison is more in the coaching staff. And the mindset of the coaching staff, just to back up what you were saying, that's where the difference is. It's from that leadership group as well.
There's an argument there with the coaching. Has it gone stale? Like, what's Brad Arthur been there for now?
Has
10
he lost
years?
the dressing room?
Has it not necessarily lost the dressing? Like, I'd still believe the players really respect him, but it gets to a point for mine where you've just got to say, you know what? We really respect everything you've done. And everyone knows I've been a huge BA fan. I've really appreciated some of the things he's got us out of, some of the troubling seasons and troubling times. But it gets to a point where the ideas and stuff, like last year was really eye-opening for me because I was a massive BA fan. And like Adam mentioned, like I started to watch a team that had no answers for some reason, was a team that made the grand final the year before. So clearly we were one of the best teams in the competition, but we were playing like we were struggling, like we were a bottom 4 side. And for mine, that's why I've said it in the past already this year. If Wayne Bennett's available, I would be going so hard for him next year. It is not funny because I still believe strongly we have a team, give or take 1 or 2 signings that we could land next year if Wayne Bennett did come in, whether it's a head coaching role or whatever. If he's there at the club, we could become a premiership winning team. But we have to really operate quickly to achieve that.
You'd want Bellamy over Bennett.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
I don't think Bellamy would come though.
Money talks.
I don't think as much as what Money would talk with Bennett. I think Bellamy would be quite happy to just get settled down in Queensland, retire for even just a couple of years to refresh. He loves to be on the Gold Coast. Every time there's an off-season thing, he's straight away on the Gold Coast and just chill out. I don't think he would come to Parramatta.
He lives in Melbourne. Like Sydney's almost like the Gold Coast to them anyway.
And he is a Newcastle boy as well.
Yeah,
so,
but also, what I wouldn't be just dangling money. I'd be going, mate, you want to prove you're the best? Come and get Parramatta a premiership. No one else has been able to do it. So throw a shitload of money and play on his ego a bit. Give anything he wants. Like, just make it happen. Anyway.
I've got another
Can I
concern.
have a go now? Or... No, you go.
Go.
No, go your last concern. No. Go your concern.
My final concern.
You've been waiting so patiently, Michael.
I know.
Sorry, no, Mick, I'll go. I feel bad.
No.
I'll just get
committed
too ready. All right.
Go your
my
last
final concern is the back line. Minus, obviously, Gutho and Penasini. I see a lot of weakness in our back line. I think they've been found out. Players like Simon.
What do you mean? You got Morgan Harper.
Morgan Hart, I don't even know what the hell the go is there. Like, seriously, get a junior, bring a junior up or something. Don't get me started on that sign. That's just another waste. Another probably Brad Arthur clone that he thinks he can do something with and prove that he can bring up players, which he's already proved he can do. I don't think he needs to continue to try and prove that he can bring first graders in or reserve graders to first graders. But like Sevo for mine, Sevo is such a frustrating player to watch. He could be one of the best wingers in the comp if he actually put his foot down and looked like he wanted to be there. But for most of the year, the last I'd probably say 2 years or so, he has not looked like he wants to actually be there. Like, he still looks like he doesn't know the game fully, which he's been there now for 4 or 5 years now. He's been around rugby league. Like, he's had enough time now to fully develop as a rugby league winger. A lot of the tries he has scored, like people go, oh, look at his try scoring record. Okay, like he's been set up a lot of those tries. Yeah, like there's a lot of tries there that generally NRL wingers would score.
Yeah.
I don't. And the other thing is, and I haven't been to a game for a while, but you can hear it in the effects, Mike. Gutho is like an on-field. We talk about on-field coaches. He is literally just screaming at him almost every game still. And for mine, if you're a first grade player, if you need that, like it's not working. Where are we at with the back line? Because as I said, like I would have been targeting a strike center this year. Like we saw the Dolphins sign 2 centers. I would have loved Parra to go after either of those two, and I think they would have made us a much better side.
I think we spent too much of our cap, obviously, re-signing Moses and Brown. Look how much, and obviously they've got to leave something there. Hopwood's obviously re-signed in 24. They've got to leave something in regards to that as well. And Penasini, they've got quite a few players. I think Bailey Simonson, the fact he was only re-signed for a 1-year contract. So it was 1.5 years I do last year, something like that. But I think he's actually in for a big year in the centres. When he went to the centres originally, he was pretty good. It's kind of what we were like. We spoke about Bailey as a winger and Bailey as a centre being completely different players, but then they probably looked for him a bit too much. Kind of just gave him the ball. It kind of showed where our halves were at last year and where our attacking play was at last year. They gave him the ball and expected him to do stuff. I think given the preseason,
that's a centre's job, though.
It is, but we essentially had 2 of the same centres. You usually have a hard-hitting centre and you have a flashy centre. I just think giving him a preseason training in the centres, he's going to be a different player this year, and he's playing for a contract too.
Didn't he have that last year?
Don't get me started on Sevo. No, he was a winger last year. Started the year at winger was terrible, remember? Got dropped. Got dropped for Dunster, who come in and was equally terrible.
I'm still
coming back from that injury.
Yeah. I just want to ask quickly, Jez, and then Mick can have his rant. As an opposition fan, do you look at our back line and get scared?
No, I don't. I look at your halves, I look at your spine, and I get a bit worried. But no, not so much. I think the Parra podcast, what's his name? Troy. I think he made a pretty good point there around the size of wingers and in relation to Sevo. I think gone are the days of the barnstorming, running over the top of people. I think now you're more looking for those flashy finishes, those diving into the corners, those front flip, back flips, all those exciting things. But no, I don't. As an opposition fan, I look at that and I don't get as worried as I would with other teams.
Which is a really strange thing. I agree with it because, like I said, there's not so big hands there. But you look at our back line, it's essentially the same back line that went to a grand final almost. And to say, people obviously
style
don't
of play,
you've
you've gone away from that style of play, which was so effective.
Yeah, exactly right. So it comes back to coaching.
Yeah.
100%. Before Michael goes on his rant, I just want to quickly touch on one of the losses. I actually ran into Jake Arthur at, funny enough, the Newcastle Jets game on Saturday night. And I spent about 10 minutes talking to him where his best mate plays for the Jets. He travelled up. Just
Is this a
moved out of home.
confidential chat? Hang on.
No, not a confidence chat at all. I had a pretty open chat with him about footy and everything at Parramatta and stuff like that. And I was obviously one of the biggest people that bagged out the people for constantly giving it to Jake. I don't think we ever got to see the best of Jake due to the pressure that come from the fans. And we never really got to see him control a team. I don't think Jake's a future half, but I can talk about that all night. I've said it before, but just talking to him, it seems like he was in a bad headspace when he was at Parramatta because of that pressure. And he openly said to me, he's just doing so much better now. He loves being at Manly. He's relaxed, looking forward to a potential Vegas trip. Now, the kid doesn't even know. He's huge. May I add, he's got about this much on me. He's massive and hasn't filled out yet. Doesn't know where he's going to be playing his footy. Doesn't even know if he's going to be playing first grade this year. He has no idea what's going on at Manly. So he's turned up the preseason, loving being there. So I think that's a good thing to see. But one thing he did say to me is his dad has spent a lot of time in the off-season brewing over last year. And it's one of the reasons he actually left home and moved out to Manly. So I guess I've called Brad Arthur out in a way and said he needs to obviously come up with a better coaching style. It seems like he's doing that because it seems like he is taking a lot of the blame for the last year.
Good.
Okay. That'd be good. Mika, go.
Well, I've even written notes to what you've all said because I've got.
I saw you scribbling away there.
Yeah.
Who has a pen and paper in 2024? Do you think about the trees, please?
I do. I do pen and paper still.
First of all, seems like you just spoke about Jake Arthur. I'm going to say I've never been more embarrassed to be a Parramatta fan as when our fans were carrying on so much about Jake Arthur. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous, and I thought the people that were leading all that need to take a good hard look at themselves. Now, other things I've got, the whole we were one game out of the 8 business, I think is an absolute cop-out. And I said that as soon as they started saying it last year.
But we were.
It is an absolute cop-out because we weren't one game short. We were many games short because we should have been a top 4 team. It's not about we lost one game here or one game there. That's garbage. We should have won the majority of our games and won them well if we were serious about our premiership run last year. It's that simple. And I will not accept any other poor excuse you come up with, Adam. It was insane to hear our coach say that at the end of the season. I almost died when I heard him say it. I thought that's absolutely ridiculous. So I actually, you talk about teams that lose a grand final and go on to the next year and all that sort of stuff. The moment Parramatta lost that the moment we got to 18-0 in the grand final, I knew we wouldn't.
Grand final 18-0.
Hey, no,
we did lose the grand final 18-0.
When it got to 18-0, I knew we were going to. That's it. Like that was the game over. We weren't coming back from it, and I knew that we wouldn't be in the grand final next year. And I don't think we'll be in the grand final for the next 3 years at least. Parramatta haven't been a team since the 80s that can go into 2 grand finals so close together. And I think last year showed we do have a good year. We think that's a good year, and we get there, and then we just turn off again. We're like, we sort of did what we needed to do. And I said to Kaylin, my daughter, when we were in the main street of Parramatta last year.
Named after Kaylin Ponga.
Last grand final, she was having such a good time, and she's looking around as all the shops were done up. And I said, breathe it in, darling, because it could be 10 years before we're back again. And it's been about 10 years between all our grand finals. And at the moment, I can't really see it changing. So that's like my massive rant bit. Just some things I want to note about Parramatta last year. I saw a little stat that Moses and Brown only got 7 or 8 games together last year, which I think is a pretty big thing for any team, but for Parramatta especially. And then you take all that other stuff you've spoken about with Campbell Gillard and all that sort of Yahoo that went on the background with some other players and whatnot. I think a player that needs to step up for them this year is Junior Paulo. I think he's not worth the money he's on anymore unless he really, really has another good standout year. I know he's our captain and I know he's been great for us, but 900 grand is a lot of money to play for a forward who doesn't always bend the line anymore. He was probably the most disappointing thing for me last year. I'm Brad Arthur. I've been a big Arthur fan for a long time. My only issue is same as when you talk about Dylan Brown going to fullback. If you're going to replace Arthur, you need to find someone better. And at the moment, unless you can get Bellamy or maybe Bennett, I don't think there is anyone better. It's that simple. You don't get rid of someone for someone that's less. And as much as I hate to say it, because I just think we'll see another few years of the same sort of thing. Unless you can get someone better, I wouldn't be replacing him. So, and yes, Josh, I think Paulo should be on the bench behind Greg. I think Greg's ready to take that front row starting position and rip in, and then bring
My
Paulo
boy
on.
Wiramu. Wiramu.
I was about to say,
Absolutely.
we all agree on that one. We love Wiramu.
You my boy
Yeah.
Blue.
On the back line, I was really, really disappointed with Hayes Dunster and how he's come back from his injury. I know it's probably not his fault, but when he first started, I thought he could have been the next Inu-like centre that we needed. I don't think Inu gets the credit he deserves for our run in 09. He was standing people up at will by the end of that year.
Yeah.
And I think Hayes
Freak.
really reminded me of him when he was younger. So I don't know. If he can get back to that form, that'd be great. I don't know. I guess the jury's still out on that one, but I always thought he could be the strike centre that we were missing, because Penasini is he'll be our centre for years. He's solid. He's good. I know he got a bit quiet at the end of last year, but he's 18 months previous to that in first grade for his age has, I think, been outstanding. I think his brother being injured has also thrown a spanner in the works.
Do you mean Dick Penasini?
Yeah, that's the one, Dick Penis.
Yep.
What's going on with his parents? My God.
Before you move on
One
too
thing-
much,
one
Mika, can I
thing
just
on
stop you?
Yes, please.
I want to raise one more point when it comes to Brad Arthur. How you said if there's not someone better. I want to ask you all this question, and it's something I've thought about the last couple of days. When I sit back and look at things, I really question the club's recruitment over the last, I'd say, 2 years at least. I think it's been some really questionable decisions there. Players that simply just have not worked. Players we've lost. Like, I know Adam hasn't been a fan of Reid Marnie, but I'll still argue from what we've had since Reid Marnie has left, I would love Reid still at the club. Papali'i, we know that money was sort of an issue there. Would have still loved him to be at the Eels. If we're putting so much money into some of these prop forwards and like Junior, for instance, yes, at the time he was doing a remarkable job, but there's got to be people starting to get held accountable at the club for making these decisions, because it's not putting us into any sort of good stead, I'd say. Like, we're looking at the backline saying, I'd say it's one of the weakest backlines in the competition, if I'm being brutally honest. There's got to be people there held accountable for that. Is it the coach? Is it the CEO? I'd argue we're quite weak when it comes to the front of house at the club.
We're not where we used to be, though. We're an absolute basket case in those wooden spoon years. But you've got to look to the future as well. And it's one thing to say, we should have kept Reid, blah, 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 blah. The players haven't obviously produced last year. I know Hodgson was a dud signing, but he was cheap and he was available. And it was set as a development there to obviously bring through Hands and bring through Matt Arthur. The move to bring Lussick back was a desperation one that didn't make much sense to me. I'm not going to bag him out because he's going to have his first full NRL preseason. We'll see how he goes. But you've got to think that last year, Parramatta has always been one of those clubs that can develop their juniors and then piss them off elsewhere, and half of them don't break through. We've got to keep some cap space available for this SG ball team that come through and obviously won the comp last year. It's as simple as that. We have to, because you've got some good young centers coming through, some good young hookers, there's two really good halves coming through. There's a couple of really good second rowers, and you don't want them to end up elsewhere. And you look at the off-contract list, you got Ogden there. Macatella could be gone already if he's not going to be gone early on. Paulo, I agree. This is a year. Paulo doesn't perform, we ship him off. He's gone. And someone like the Tigers or something will snap him up for sure. The cap takes up so much importance.
You don't want to fall into the Tamalolo sort of conundrum where you've signed a bloke when he's in the peak form. So like Junior Paulo, I'm assuming when he got that contract was after he had that standout year where he was bending the line backwards. He was a monster in Origin. Everyone loved when he had the ball tucked under his arm and ran through people. But last year, he was dreadful. And we gave him a lot of feedback, I might say, last year when we were doing our reviews of the games. And he was a name that was brought out every time around he's not playing to his potential. He seems like a bit of dead weight at the moment. Like, what is happening there? So is it a what am I trying to say? Is it the recruitment person or the CEO or the coach who is saying, righto, let's throw all this money at them, sign them on their best year, and then that has those knock-on effects where you run the gamble of can they consistently do it for years and years to come? And it seems like Junior Paulo was a gamble that didn't work out the way that you wanted it to.
No,
It's hard to say because
This
he's only had one bad
Gamble's
year.
a loose word, like a loose term.
But well, off the back of 2022, where he played, as Josh said, he's had to play too many minutes last year in 2022. But he also went on to a World Cup run with Samoa and played some pretty big minutes in that. So obviously his preseason was affected after that. And then last year, plus boxing, plus Origin, and then last year playing Origin. I hope Junior doesn't get. I don't think he will. I hope he doesn't get picked for Origin this year because I feel like his concentration, if he's just concentrating on Parramatta, obviously coming off a proper preseason and stuff as well, there's no excuses if he doesn't obviously aim up this year.
I think he can do it.
It's another reason why I question Brad Arthur though, because he should be on top of that. He should have been speaking to him last year and saying, "I know you've had a massive year in 2022. We need to look after you better. We need to either start you off the bench for some games and vice versa." Seen it with teams like Penrith. Ivan Cleary doesn't care who's in or out. If he wants to make a call and say Martin needs to have a rest, he'll make Liam Martin have a rest. He doesn't give a shit who's in or out. He'll just go, it's best for us moving forward. And
we didn't have that option last year. Like, you got to look at it. Campbell Gillard was suspended, and then Greg got injured. Once Greg hit form, he got injured, and then we never had all three of them to be able to bring the minutes down. And I think that was one of obviously the most disappointing things at what could have been in regards to those three players. We've finally got into
a Cardi party.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Cartwright was brilliant last year, but he never gets a chance if Lane doesn't get the injuries and Madison doesn't take his suspensions. You know, you look at those three as well, which affected Dylan Brown's game when he was on the field. So
I think the coach just needs to talk to Paulo and go, stop with the ball playing, put it under your arm and run. Like they just need to simplify his game a bit again. I think he's trying too much to be a ball player, trying to replicate some other team styles, which isn't working for him, which probably goes off the fact that they don't have Reed's ridiculously long pass out of hooker anymore to get him so wide so early.
But you don't obviously know, too, with Hopgood coming in the team last year, his first season, he took that junior role from the previous years of being able to ball play. And that's why it was so noticeable what Junior was doing, because you had both of them doing the same thing. The difference with Hopgood was Hopgood knew when to run it. It's like Junior didn't want the contact last year. He was really feeling the effects of something.
I'd agree with that.
Questionably, he played too many minutes as well. I think he's even said it himself in an interview I heard. Jez has got the weird emoticons coming back. It must be that time of night.
Didn't even mean to.
But yeah, let's move on because we do have one more team, and we're going to turn the loyal listeners. This is what me and Jesse go through on a weekly basis with Supercoach. We go into the 2-hour mark and it gets big. But let's give our ratings and rankings for the Eels. So obviously, I'll start with Jez. You can start us off. You can have your right of reply after getting bashed.
Morgan Harper. That's huge. So you've got a 9. Let's go 5. And it's purely because of your re-signings, like Dylan Brown, Mitch Moses, locking those guys in. Wiramu Greg. We love Wiramu Greg. And I'm excited to see the role that Brandon Hands does play this year, because I think there's something that could be very special in that combination of the hookers coming on and off there. So what did I say? 6?
Yep.
5.
Sure.
No, he said 6.
You said 5? Oh. And where do you see us finishing?
Well, I'm just looking back at all my other placings, and I've only got a spot for you 13 to 17. So I'll go 5 to 8. You'll be in the 8. If you pull your finger out, you could even be top 4.
Mika?
Before I saw the re-signing list, I was going to give us a 2 because our gains and losses, I know we had to let some of the players we let go were really good to let go of, Wonga Blake, but Morgan Harbour and that was it. I was ready to give us a 2, but the re-signings are actually really good. As you said, Greg, Cartwright, Brown, Moses, Penasini. Sean Russell doesn't get thrown around a lot. I think I saw the other day he's put a bit of weight on. I think he'll be really good this season again. So I'm going to go.
The off season.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. What do I give the others? 6. I'll give us a
Sorry, Nick,
7.
just can't hear you over your bottle lids there.
Tapping. Yeah.
My bad. I'll give us
7.
a 7.
Love it. Where are you finishing?
Where are we finishing?
7th or 8th.
So that's in the 5th to 8th.
Right,
That would be the 5 to 8 range.
It will be, yeah. But I'm more accurate than that. I'm going the bottom of the 5 to 8 range.
Adam.
Yeah. Look, this one's obviously easy to rate knowing some of the background stuff. There was all that talk last year about the X Factor player and stuff like that. I'm going to give us a higher rating based on the fact that we didn't rush in to sign someone out of desperation, which we've done before. I feel like Parramatta's waited till next year. They've got some money in the salary cap to either see what kind of good kids come through or make a big play at one of the off-coming players at the end of this year. So I'm going to give them a 7.5 just because of the losses as well. I think a lot of those losses are great. They've moved on some of those players and the re-signings as well. The gains, once again, their depth, besides Tuolagi, who they believe will somehow break into first grade eventually. But Harper's there as a depth as well. So, I did. That was last year, though. That's not this year. That was last year. I'm talking, and he wasn't a big spending. I'm talking they didn't rush off to sign. There wasn't much available last year, end of last year. That's
If there was, we would have bought it.
Yeah, but no. It's not that. Like I said, there was so much talk on this X Factor, and they looked around, they couldn't find anyone. Like, you look at the end of this year, you got someone like Joseph Manu potentially coming on the market. Would you have a crack at him? But you can say we won't get him, but would you have a crack at him? 100% you would.
Yes.
They're going to be in a position to do that.
Every club will.
Exactly right, but we're going to be in a good position to do it. If we went off and signed someone shit, or three or four shit depth players and put them on 2-year contracts, we wouldn't be in that position. And it also gives us opportunity with, obviously, Dick Penasini's injured his ACL, so he's out. But what's the other one coming through? The other centre. Fuck, his name's escaped me.
Blaze.
You got Blaze coming through as well. I know they see him centre wing, half body, whatever he can play.
Laser?
Yeah. We've got so many good young ones coming through that could obviously take that step this year. So that's why I'm giving it that. As for the prediction, I've done a bit of research, and the research is all in my head. Parramatta don't really in the Brad Arthur era, obviously after that rebuilding time, they don't produce back-to-back disappointing years. So obviously 2017 finals, 2018 wooden spoon, 2017 1-4, 2018 wooden spoon, 2019 fifth, 2020 1-4, 2021 5-8, 2022 1-4. All right. So
We need this year, so we don't care about 10 years ago.
We need playoffs.
well, you look at the pattern last year.
We're already up to an hour and a half.
1-4.
1-4. All
Oh,
right.
thank you.
Based on that
guys,
pattern.
I'll be quick after Adam just took everyone's time for his explanation of both. 6.5. Well, actually, no, 6. Sorry, 6 for the gains, losses, and retention.
Up the
There's actually some
wires.
players that we re-signed that
He's
I wasn't
gone.
too happy. He's gone. He's had enough. Mika, see you later. There's actually a few re-signs that I actually wouldn't have made personally. I would have freed up some cash and gone after players elsewhere. But anyway, and I think our finishing will be 5th to 8th, probably more in the back half of that position there. Promised it. The last team, another popular one. It's been massive.
there's
The
one to
Brisbane
go.
Broncos. There is one to go. Hang on.
We'll just come back next week and do this one.
Mate, we promised it. We've got to
Broncos,
stick through
good.
it here. Broncos,
end.
the gains, Fletcher Baker, Roosters, Jaden Hunt, the Dragons. Losses, Kurt Capewell to the Warriors, Herbie Farnworth, Dolphins, Thomas Flegler, Dolphins. It's been a good one. Keenan, Palacia, Titans, Ethan Kwai Ward released as well. The re-signings, a couple of the key ones, Jesse Arthur's 26, Carrigan 28, Payne Haas 26, Jensen 25, Mariner 27, Oates 24, Pakes 25, Tristan Saylor 25, Martin Tapau 2024, and a big one off contract, Adam Reynolds this year. So there'll be a lot to see what will happen with him throughout the year.
And Smoothie. And Walters.
Yeah, and Smoothie, Walters. There is a bit.
And
Obviously, I was just trying to.
And
There's heaps. We can go through the whole list. Hoyter, Deloise Hoyter would be in demand as well, I think.
Now, in my defense, I made these slides. I do remember this one it was about quarter to 12 after a late fortnight session. So that's
Ooh.
my only excuse there for Thomas
So about the time it is now.
and the Dolphins.
Thoughts on this one? I don't mind the gains. I think the losses are massive. I'm going to go out and say it right now. I see the Broncos slipping a touch this year. I know a lot of people have them to win the comp and things like that. Capewell, big last year, senior player. Farnworth, I think, was one of their best players last year. Flegler was such a good person to have alongside Hassel when he needed a break and things like that. And Keenan Palacia, do not underestimate his game last year and especially his role in the grand final. I thought that was huge. So I think there's quite a lot of quality players lost there for the Broncos, which will hurt them.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Dolphins have picked up quite nicely with those two. And we spoke about the Warriors gain with Kurt Capewell. And when we heard that was going to happen and we thought it was rumors and then it actually happened. So they are some losses for the Broncos. Do I think it's going to affect their opportunity to still finish top 4? Probably not. I still think they're going to be there and abouts.
I do as well. Adam?
Yeah, I've jumped above him now because he had that little brief moment. Looking through the gains and losses, like he's obviously touched on, just looking at the off contract, I feel like there's a bit of poor management going here by the Broncos. I think Reynolds potentially could retire at the end of the year, but they've got 3/4 of their spine off contract. They've got Billy Walters, Mann, and Reynolds all off contract at the end of 2024. We've seen with other teams, obviously the distraction that contract negotiations can cause. Now, based off the grand final last year, if Ezra can come out in the first 3-4 weeks and produce what he did, he's going to be the most in-demand player in the competition. There's going to be teams circling for him everywhere. That's going to be a massive distraction. I guess looking at Reynolds as well and the age of Reynolds, if I'm trying not to get into concerns here, it's kind of thing, but the age of Reynolds, if he does get an injury and you've got that going on with Mann, I just think they should have had that sorted. Like they should have had Ezra straight into there. Yep.
Breaking news 3 hours ago. Ezra Mam has agreed to terms on a $3 million plus extension in a major contract coup as the Broncos look to break in the 18-year-old title drought. So it seems like
you could have updated your fucking list. You would have saved me the last 2.5 minutes of your life.
But hey, this is live radio.
All right. Well,
again, breaking news with League of Interest.
Forget everything I just said. Ezra Man, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. They've signed him, so they've got that done. Move on.
Mika, welcome back. What are your thoughts on the Bronx?
Yeah, they'll be in the top 4 again. I've got no doubt. Especially if Walsh sticks to form. Someone asked earlier who we thought the best halves combination in the comp was, if we thought it was Parramatta or not. I actually think it's either Storm or Brisbane. I just think when you look at the two of the halves together as a combination, Reynolds and Mam are up there with Hughes and Munster, in my opinion.
Based on last year, can you base that this year after what Ezra produced last year and probably wanting to assert a bit of dominance with an aging halfback?
I don't think it makes a difference, to be honest. And I said all along.
Let's look at the Roosters. Let's look at the Roosters the year they were meant to win the comp. Obviously, after they went on that run with Sam Walker, with Kiri out, then Kiri comes back in. I can see a similar thing happening with Brisbane there. There's going to be a bit of a power struggle.
Yeah, but Mam's still he's a good running 6. He's not the leader.
I was going to say, there's a halves pairing that has won the comp the last 3 years that I think would be the top of the list.
Yeah.
As a couple. No. You need to listen to what I said. I said as a halves pairing, Nathan Cleary won those comps, and he would have done it with any number 6 beside him.
He's right, Shout out to the Penrith listeners. Hoping you tuned in this
honestly,
week.
I don't want another week of this.
Hang on. As seen by Jack Cogger making Penrith look better in the grand final, and he's a reserve grade player. So if you look at the halves
as Cup for the night,
as a couple, as a halves combination, I don't think like Nathan Cleary is the best half in the comp. He's not part of the best halves combination due to Luai.
So a question on Mam. So what was it? 3 million for 3 years? Is that reported? Is that what it is?
It just said multi-year deal.
Okay, so let's guess it's around that $1 million.
That's more than one, Joel.
Yeah, well, he's not going to sign for 2 years and be getting 1.5 million. Come on. So it's at
3 or
least
4.
3 years,
3
maybe
million.
4.
Yeah.
It's still decent money for Mam, and no
Absolutely.
doubt, like his grand final performance was remarkable. Was the rest of the year as good as that contract's making it out to be? Because attack-wise, I think he was great in open space, but does he have all the chinks to his armor at the moment to be a top quality 5'8"? Like if you had the choice between him or Dylan Brown to sign for a new club, I'd be signing Dylan Brown every day of the week.
How old is he? Sorry, I don't.
18.
Genuine question.
He
Man.
was 18 last year, so he'd be 19 this year.
Oh,
He is.
yeah,
19,
that's a
20.
great deal. 18-year-old halves have a lot of maturing to do. The stuff you're
Yeah,
worried
but-
about comes with time.
Can they do it without Reynolds? Is he going to be that good without Reynolds?
And
Well,
that's
he's
what
got a
they're
lot to
signing
learn in
for,
this
take
year. If this
over.
is Reynolds' last year. He has a lot to learn. So hopefully he's bringing his notebook and pen to training every week and watching
I've got
heaps
one
of
he
video
can
and
write.
listening to Reynolds.
If that's a Broncos thought pattern, is he's the next in line to take over Reynolds and become the halfback, I've got no problem with them investing into their future. I'm just get worried when a lot of these young players get onto these massive contracts straight away. I know they've kind of got it because of the other clubs circling. It just comes with so much unnecessary pressure, I think. And like the Broncos are a massive club coming off the year that they had, finishing agonizingly short of that grand final victory, which most of us thought by 60 minutes was wrapped up. I feel like that sort of contract can do a lot to Mam in a negative way, not a positive way.
Depends on the people around him. Depends on the club that he's at as well. And I do believe that the Broncos have the right people behind the doors looking after these young guys. And that's where I think the difference is in terms of clubs.
Yeah, Andrew, we'll get you a late slip. It's all good.
Don't worry, I've got a number in my phone, Andrew.
Jesus Christ.
Any other concerns for the Bronx boys?
Oh, dear.
Concerns.
We've gone off the rails.
No concerns.
Not that we haven't already spoken about.
What about four? Can you see him winning the comp? Anyone here haven't winning the comp?
They'll be.
I don't have them winning the comp. I have it as their pass mark. So for them, if they're doing an evaluation of themselves, I have winning the competition as a pass mark for them.
Josh says he does. Can you just quickly write in an explanation why you haven't winning the comp, Josh? We might go through that one because that could be a good fall.
I'm assuming their draws very, very favourable again.
It always is.
Not to start with. I'm pretty sure it's pretty hard to start with.
Yeah, right.
But I think they get a lot of Friday games in that as the Broncos.
Does that say Friday night? Who's playing? It's the Broncos.
Yeah, I understand it though.
Friday night footy.
You need a team from Queensland to play to get all your Queensland viewers, don't you? Who are they going to put on the fucking
viewers.
Titans?
Hey, don't write the Titans off this year. We've had our preview of them. They're looking all right.
I think we're drained from the Knights Eels chat.
Yeah, I think we are. So
yeah, we are.
Sorry, Broncos. You're going to win the comp at the end.
And Reece Wolf's play fullback for Queensland.
Rankings and ratings for the Bronx boys. We'll start it quickly. If Old Man River stays fit, this is
Reynolds.
Josh. Old Man River stays fit. So Reynolds, another year of experience. Penrith's bench and depth is weaker now. They know they can beat them if they just manage the last 20 better. I'd also argue the Broncos bench has gotten weaker. So you sort of checkmate each other there. But there's no Flegler, no Palacia. So we'll see what happens. Like, I'm not writing the Broncos off at all. They can do it. I just think they are weaker than last year's team. So that
Farnworth's a big loss.
That's a bit eye-opening. Farnworth's massive. So, Mick, I'll start at you. Work up your ratings and rankings for the Broncos.
They'll be 1 to 4. I don't know. There's some big losses, Catewell, Farnworth, and Flegler. So I'm going to give them let's go 5.
And Adam?
Yeah, I'm going to give them a 5 as well. like I said, what they kind of lost. I guess they didn't need to sign too much, but I don't really know what the replacement options they've got there. I think they're probably a couple of injuries away from having a very unsuccessful season with what the players they've lost. But I've got them 5 to 8. I've got them suffering a bit
They're
of
going to pick up, what's his name, from the retirement of the Bulldogs?
Tavita Pengai Jr. Yeah, he won't help their backline. That I feel like they need some depth in. 5 to 8. I've got them suffering a bit of a gambling hangover. Wow, grand final hangover. And starting the season pretty slow, but getting there.
Before we get to yours, Jez, just a quick question which we should have touched on actually, because it is a big move for the Broncos. Cobbo to the center. I don't like it. I think he's established himself as quite a good winger. I don't know if he's developed his game enough to be the quality center at the moment. I know there's been talk about him becoming a fullback later in his career. I just would have left him at the wing for now. But for more reports, Corey Oates is looking fit as this year, and he's basically
purely just to fit Corey Oates into the team. Like, is this the reason behind it? Yeah.
Apparently, he's impressed more than I think Mariner has, and they need to put Oates in the team. So, but if that's the case, fair enough. I just defensively as well, I'm a bit worried for him because Cobbo can't read the defense as well as he probably should be at center. So that's definitely something that if I was an opposition team, I'd be targeting straight away, especially early on in the season. Jez?
Yeah, I've got a 5. Their losses with Capewell, Farnworth, Flegler, I thought they were quite large, but then having a look at their re-signings and where they're aiming, what they want to do in the next couple of years has kind of brought that score back up. So I've got a 5, and I've got them finishing in 1 to 4. I just think they'll be there again and probably look to go one better, as I said.
Happy looking at the re-signing list. Pat Carrigan's in there, Payne Haas is in there, a couple of really big names which they'll be glad to get. So I'm going to give them a 6.5, just a touch above Parramatta, just because of those quality players there that they've kept. I'm with you, Jez. I got 1 to 4, but for some reason, I just feel like a little bit they lack a bit, and they won't make the grand final. But happy to be proven wrong. I did really enjoy watching the Broncos last year, so if they bring that entertaining football once again, I'll be happy chappy watching the league this year. So that's all we've got time for. Apologies to the Broncos fans. I feel like we didn't get into them as much as we could have, but it has been a massive episode. We did promise it. Thank you for sticking with us. It's been enjoyable to interact.
They don't turn up for the last 20 minutes anyway, the Broncos, so the fans wouldn't either.
Yeah, he had to get one in after that. Everyone who hasn't checked it out, check out the Jersey episode and listen to Adam's comments about the collar. So it is probably his best one all year. He's gone early, but that's all we've got time for. Really appreciate everyone for tuning in. As we said, the live shows, I guess, in a way, are officially about. This was a big one. So I think we'll have a chat about what's happening next week, but we'll notify everyone. Basically, that's it. If you haven't already, make sure if you are listening on YouTube, just subscribe to the page. It does go a long way to support us. Like the video, share the video if you can. If you're on Facebook, get everyone out there to give us a follow, especially heading into footy season. All the content is ramping up now. But boys, thank you.
Before you sign off, can I say one more thing? Hang on. You had your banana bread story. This is my turn. I just want to highlight, guys, this weekend coming up is the last weekend without footy. How good is
thank
that?
Goodness. Thank
last
goodness.
weekend without footy. The trials start the week after. Obviously, they're all going to be live again on, obviously, Fox Sports and KO, whatever you got. And then the benefit is there's no week off this year in between the trials and the comp because we've obviously got those Vegas games.
Excellent.
Oh,
yeah.
And I'm going to be absolutely hammered all weekend this weekend. So for me, the next weekend I'm going to remember. The next weekend I'm going to remember has got footy in it.
I forgot about that. So
my last little thing was leave a 5-star review, because then you can give a comment and you can bag out Adam and Michael as much as you like, just as long as you leave a 5-star review, and then just go ham on the comment. And if it's funny, we'll read it out.
Yeah, if you are a podcast listener, as just said, please do the rating. It does go a long way of helping spread the pages as well, the podcast. And just hit that bell icon. It lets you know whenever our episodes get uploaded as well. So
we can get a hater of the week segment.
Yeah, I think we might introduce that. And just on what Adam said, I didn't quite realize it's been a massive month, but next week we might pop in and actually have a chat about the lineups that get released and just talk about some players to look out for, some of the young guys coming through, because obviously next week's games are normally more of that younger talent coming through, but you never know. Maybe Pappenhausen or something will be there to stretch his legs out, and we'll have a bit of a chat on that. But thanks, guys. We'll sign off. Get to bed. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.